Hey everyone, welcome to our deep dive into wealth creation. We're cracking open MJ DeMarco's The Millionaire Fastlane today.
It's a book that really throws out the old get rich slow advice.
Right. Kind of makes you rethink those retirement plans, huh?
Yeah.
So, are you ready to ditch that slow lane and maybe find a faster route to financial freedom?
Absolutely. That's what makes this book so interesting. It flips the script on how we think about building wealth.
Mhm.
It's not about just waiting for your retirement fund to mature.
Yeah.
It's about taking control and speeding things up a bit.
I love that idea of taking control, especially since DeMarco kind of had this realization early on. Have you heard about his Lamborghini prophecy?
Oh, yeah, the story about the Countach.
Yeah, the Countach. He was just a teenager when he saw it, but it was like this huge aha moment for him. It made him realize that wealth didn't have to be something you get when you're like old and gray.
Right. It got him thinking about achieving it much sooner.
Exactly. And that encounter, it really did shape his journey. It pushed him to question all that conventional wisdom about wealth,
hmm
and it led him to define these three different financial roadmaps. He calls them the Sidewalk, the Slowlane, and of course the Fastlane.
And each one kind of leads you to a completely different destination.
Okay, so let's break down these roadmaps. What's the Sidewalk all about?
Well, think of the sidewalk as the path of instant gratification. It's living in the moment, paycheck to paycheck. You prioritize that immediate pleasure over any kind of long-term planning.
It's that treat yourself mentality, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it might feel good at the time, but it can lead to, well,
True.
yeah, financial instability, even poverty.
It's like you're saying, no thought about tomorrow.
Exactly. Then you have the slow lane. That's
Yeah.
what most people are told to do, Get a good job, work hard, save your money, invest it, and then hopefully retire comfortably someday.
Yeah, that's the safe and steady approach everyone talks about. But DeMarco's saying it's not all it's cracked up to be.
Yeah, he thinks it leads to mediocrity, just getting by instead of really thriving.
So you're stuck in a cubicle for decades, not exactly living the dream.
Right. And he argues that even though the slow lane might lead to, a comfy retirement, it often means giving up your freedom and your dreams for, way too long. So that brings us to the fast lane. This is where he really breaks away from the traditional stuff.
Okay, the fast lane. That sounds a lot more exciting. What's that about?
It's about creating your own wealth,
Uh-huh.
not relying on someone else's system.
I like the sound of that already.
It's about building businesses that can bring in passive income and using assets and control to reach financial freedom way faster.
So instead of trading your hours for a paycheck at a regular job, you're creating something that works for you, even when you're not working.
Exactly. And DeMarco's own story proves that the fast lane can really work. I mean, he started out struggling, rejected all the usual advice, and then found success through entrepreneurship. He actually reached financial freedom while he was still young.
That's amazing. But I'm guessing the fast lane isn't exactly a walk in the park. What are some of the key things that make it work?
He breaks it down into a wealth equation and something he calls the 5 commandments. The equation is wealth equals net profit plus asset value. Basically, he's saying you build wealth by making consistent profits and increasing the value of what you own.
Okay, that makes sense, but how do you actually do that? That's where the 5 commandments come in.
Right. They're like a guide for building a business the fast lane way. The first one is the commandment of need. It's all about solving a problem, a real need that people have.
You can't just make a product because you think it's cool. It has to actually solve a problem.
Exactly. Something people are willing to pay for.
So before even thinking of a business idea, you need to find a problem that needs solving.
Yeah, that's step 1. Then comes the commandment of entry. This one's about choosing businesses that are hard to get into.
Oh, I see. So if it's easy for anyone to just jump in and do what you're doing,
Right.
you're going to have a ton of competition.
Exactly. And you might not make much profit. DeMarco says you want a business that's hard to copy, something with an edge.
Makes sense.
And that leads to the commandment of control. It's about being in charge of your own business.
You don't want to depend on someone else's platform or decisions. You want to be calling the shots.
Yep. You control your destiny, your brand, your operations, everything. Then there's the commandment of scale. Think big. That's the idea here. DeMarco's a big believer in aiming for large-scale impact, reaching a big audience, or providing massive value.
It's not about that little side hustle that just covers the bills. It's about something that can change your life, maybe even the world, right?
Precisely. And last but not least, the commandment of time. This one's about building a business that doesn't need you 24/7.
So you're not chained to your desk.
Right. The ultimate goal of the Fastlane is to create passive income streams, systems that make money even when you're not working.
So you build it once and it keeps on giving. That's the dream, right?
That's the beauty of the Fastlane. It's about having a life where you don't have to trade all your time for money. You're not stuck to a schedule. You have the freedom to choose what you do with your day.
That's a pretty amazing vision. But does DeMarco actually give any examples of how this works in the book, like stories or something?
He does. He uses real-world examples and even tells little stories to illustrate the power of the Fastlane. There's one about two pyramid builders, Azur and Chuma.
Okay, what about them?
So Azur is the hard worker, right? Always putting in the effort, but he's basically just trading his time for a small reward.
Okay.
Chuma, on the other hand, he decides to spend some time up front building a crane. It's a system that does all the heavy lifting for him.
So Azur's all about brute force, while Chuma's working smarter, not just harder.
Exactly. It's a great way to show how important it is to create systems that work for you, even when you're not actively working.
I like that.
And then DeMarco shares all these stories of entrepreneurs who got rich quickly by using these Fastlane principles.
So it's not just a theory, it actually works in the real world.
That's what makes the Millionaire Fastlane so compelling. It's not just motivational fluff. It's a practical guide to building wealth through entrepreneurship and making smart decisions.
Now, you mentioned earlier that DeMarco also talks about mindset, like shifting your thinking to really achieve Fastlane success. Can you tell me more about that?
He argues that it's not enough to just know the how-to. You have to have the right perspective on money and wealth to make it work.
So what are some of those mindset shifts?
One of the biggest ones is changing how you see money. DeMarco wants us to get rid of that scarcity mindset, that belief that money is limited and hard to come by.
It's like thinking there's only so much pie to go around. If someone else gets a big slice, there's less for you.
Exactly. And DeMarco says that way of thinking is super limiting. He wants us to adopt an abundance mindset, to see money as a tool, a resource that flows to people who create value and solve problems.
So instead of thinking about what you lack, you focus on what you can create and contribute.
Exactly. And this goes hand in hand with what he calls the law of affection.
Law of affection. What's that?
It's this idea that the more people you help, the more potential you have for creating wealth.
It's not about being greedy. It's about creating value on a big scale.
That's the key. And you know that whole do what you love advice?
Yeah.
DeMarco kind of flips that too. He says it might not always be the best way to get to financial freedom.
Wait, but isn't passion important? Shouldn't you love what you do?
Definitely. But he's saying that just loving something isn't enough. It needs to connect with a real need in the market to be financially viable.
So your passion needs to also be a solution to a problem that people will pay for.
Right. He wants entrepreneurs to find their why, their driving force, and then align their business with a passion that fuels them and also addresses a real problem.
So it's about finding that sweet spot where your passion and a good business opportunity meet.
Yeah. DeMarco's saying you can be passionate about something without it being your main source of income,
Oh, I see.
You can have hobbies, volunteering, creative things that fulfill you personally, and then build a separate business that gives you financial stability and freedom.
That makes a lot of sense. It's finding that balance, passion, any practicality, knowing that financial freedom actually gives you the choice to pursue those passions more fully.
Exactly.
This is great.
That's what the Millionaire Fastlane is all about,
Yeah.
giving you the tools and the mindset to create that freedom and build a life on your own terms.
I'm really liking this deep dive.
Me too.
Okay, so we've talked about the main idea behind the Fastlane, the wealth equation, and those 5 commandments. But how do you actually turn all that into a real business? Does DeMarco give any, practical advice on that?
He does, lots of it. One of the first things he talks about is finding those unmet needs in the market. Remember those "I'm tired of" or "this sucks" kind of statements?
Yeah.
He says those are often clues to problems people are facing, problems they're willing to pay to have solved.
It's like tuning into those little frustrations, those moments when people are wishing for something better, right?
Exactly. And those needs, they can be about anything, big or small. Could be something simple like a better way to organize your spice rack,
Right.
or something huge like finding a new energy source.
Oh.
The key is to pay attention, to listen to what people complain about, and see those complaints as opportunities.
So you're looking for those gaps in the market, the areas where people are looking for solutions. But let's say you've found a need, you've got this great business idea. What's next?
DeMarco really stresses the importance of having a unique selling proposition. He calls it a USP.
USP.
Yeah, it's that special something that makes your business stand out from all the others.
It's what makes you different, right?
Exactly. It's like your secret sauce. The reason why customers would pick you over everyone else.
Okay.
And he says it's not enough to just have a good product or service. You got to be able to explain why you're different, why you're better, why people should care.
It's like telling a story about your brand and why it's special.
Exactly. A strong USP. That leads right into building a brand, not just a business. DeMarco's really big on that.
He's all about creating something people connect with, that makes them feel something, that builds loyalty. It's about creating an experience.
Right. And one key part of that is something he calls decommoditizing your offering.
Decommoditizing, what's that mean?
It's basically avoiding that race to the bottom on price. You don't want to get stuck competing on who's the cheapest.
You're saying you want to make your product or service so unique, so valuable, that people are willing to pay more for it.
That's the goal. You want to create something that can't just be easily replaced with a cheaper option. He actually talks about this in his own story, how he made his company seem bigger than it was while still giving that personal small business touch. He has this acronym for it, SUCS.
SUCS.
Yeah, it stands for Service Unexpectedly Catching You Smiling.
I like that. So how do you actually do that?
He knew people don't usually expect great customer service from big companies.
Right.
So he did the opposite. He built this brand that looked big and established, but then he surprised people with really personalized, attentive service.
So it's exceeding expectations, making customers feel like they're really valued.
Exactly. And it worked like a charm. People were blown away by how much they were cared for, and it really helped him build a loyal following.
It shows you that amazing customer service can really make a difference, especially now when so many companies are all about automation and impersonal stuff. We were talking earlier about the mindset shifts DeMarco talks about. Can we go back to that for a second?
Sure. He challenges a lot of common beliefs about money and success. One of the big ones is that shift from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset.
So instead of thinking there's a limited amount of wealth to go around, you start believing that wealth can be created, opportunities are everywhere, and your potential is limitless.
That's a huge part of the Fastlane philosophy. It's believing that you can achieve financial freedom through your own effort, your creativity, not just luck or inheritance.
That's a powerful way to think about it. It reminds me of the law of affection we talked about earlier.
Right. That principle says the more lives you touch in a positive way, the more wealth you have the potential to create.
It's not about being greedy. It's about making a positive impact, helping people.
Exactly. And DeMarco actually has some interesting things to say about taking action. He's not a fan of just planning and planning without actually doing anything.
He's all about action. He even says, burn the business plan, ignite execution.
That's the one. He thinks too many people get stuck writing these super detailed business plans that just end up gathering dust.
It's that fear of taking the first step, that worry that everything has to be perfect before you even start.
Yeah, but DeMarco's saying it's better to just start doing something, even if it's small, and learn as you go.
It's like that fail fast, fail forward idea.
Exactly. He thinks the best way to learn is by actually testing your ideas and changing your plans based on what happens.
He's all about those smart risks, the ones where even if things don't work out, you don't lose much. But if they do work out,
the potential is huge.
Exactly. Now, DeMarco's also big on the idea of building systems that can run without you, right? He calls them
money tree seedlings.
Oh, yeah, money tree seedlings. Okay, so what are those exactly?
Think of them as business models that have the potential to create passive income. Systems that, once you set them up, they keep making money, even when you're not actively working.
So it's like planting a tree and then it just keeps producing fruit without you having to do much.
Exactly. And he outlines 5 main types. There are rental systems, computer systems, content systems, distribution systems, and human resource systems.
Let's break those down a bit. What about rental systems? That's like real estate, right?
Yeah, that's a classic example. You own a property, you rent it out, you collect money every month without having to lift a finger.
But rentals can go beyond owning physical property, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. You could lease equipment, license intellectual property, even create subscription services where people pay you regularly for access to something. The main thing is that rental systems set up recurring income streams that pretty much run themselves once you get them going.
That makes sense. Okay, what about these computer systems? It seems like that area's exploded in recent years, especially with the internet and all the mobile tech.
Totally. This category is all about things like creating and selling software, developing online courses, and building membership websites.
It's about using tech to reach a global audience and make passive income without needing physical stuff or a big team.
Right. DeMarco really highlights the internet's power for building these kinds of systems.
Okay, now how about content systems? I'm guessing that's where things like blogging, podcasting, and online courses fit in.
You got it. Content systems are all about creating valuable stuff that draws in an audience, and then you find ways to make money from that audience.
Like with ads, affiliate links, or selling products or services related to the content.
Exactly. It's about establishing yourself as an expert in a certain area and creating stuff that people find really valuable.
So what about distribution systems? What does that mean?
Distribution is all about getting products to customers. You could set up an online store, build a network of affiliates who sell for you,
Okay.
or even partner with traditional stores to sell your stuff. The key is finding efficient and effective ways to reach your market and make it easy for people to buy from you.
So you're creating a smooth path for your product to reach the people who want it.
Got it.
Got it. And lastly, there's human resource systems.
Right. This is about building a team of people who can help you grow your business and provide even more value to your customers.
So hiring employees, maybe contractors or freelancers to handle things like customer service, marketing, product development, things like that.
Exactly. The key here is finding talented people who believe in your vision, who share your values.
Right.
And then you create a system that allows them to do their best work.
DeMarco's a big believer in building a strong team, isn't he?
Definitely. He emphasizes that building a successful business is rarely a solo effort. Finding the right people and creating a positive, supportive work environment can make all the difference.
Now, DeMarco's also a big advocate for understanding how money works.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
He believes that financial literacy is essential for building wealth. He wants people to become lenders, not just borrowers,
Okay.
and to use their savings to generate passive income through investments.
So instead of letting your money just sit in a savings account, you're actively looking for ways to make it work for you.
That's the idea. DeMarco really likes municipal bonds and treasuries, He sees them as fairly safe investments that bring in consistent income without the ups and downs of the stock market.
And he's also a big believer in living below your means, even as you start earning more.
Absolutely. He's all about resisting that urge to upgrade your lifestyle every time you get a raise or come into some extra money. It's about staying disciplined with your finances and making smart choices about what you spend. He actually calls that overspending trap lifestyle servitude.
It's like recognizing that true wealth isn't about how much you spend, but how much you keep and how you use it to build a life of freedom and abundance.
Exactly. It's about breaking free from that cycle of constantly working just to maintain a certain lifestyle. Instead, you prioritize experiences, relationships, personal growth, all that good stuff over just buying more things.
That's a great way to think about it. Now, does DeMarco offer any specific advice on managing money, setting financial goals, and making a plan to reach them?
He does. He suggests figuring out your gross living costs, which is basically how much money you need to maintain your lifestyle, and then multiplying that by 5 to get what he calls your business system target.
Okay, so that business system target is the amount of passive income your business needs to make to cover your expenses and leave some for investments.
Right. It gives you a clear number to work towards. You know exactly how much income you need to make to hit that financial freedom goal.
And what about setting up a money system? Does he talk about that?
Oh, yeah. That's basically a separate account where you save and invest your money with the aim of reaching a point where the income from those investments can cover all your living expenses.
So it's like building the system that works in the background, making you money even when you're not working, and giving you a safety net for the future.
Exactly. And DeMarco emphasizes the importance of consistency, even with small amounts. Like even just putting a few pennies in a jar every day as a reminder of your progress toward your financial goals.
It's a simple thing, but it really reinforces that abundance mindset.
Right. Now, one thing DeMarco makes really clear is that achieving financial freedom takes more than just knowledge and planning.
You got to actually do something, right? You need commitment and the willingness to push through the hard parts and keep your eyes on the prize.
That's it. He reminds us that there will be setbacks, obstacles, and times when you might feel like giving up.
But it's the people who are truly committed who find a way to overcome those challenges. And those are the ones who succeed.
He even reminds us that it only takes one big win, one home run, he says, could set you financially secure for your life, perhaps generations.
That's a powerful way to put it.
Right. And it's all about recognizing that success doesn't always happen in a straight line. It's a process of learning, adapting, and always striving to improve.
You know, one of the things I appreciate about DeMarco is that he doesn't shy away from talking about the tough parts of this journey.
No, he doesn't. He's upfront about the fact that achieving Fastlane success requires work, dedication, and sometimes delaying gratification.
It's about understanding that extraordinary outcomes often require stepping outside your comfort zone, changing the way you live and work, making some sacrifices in the short term for those long-term gains.
He also prepares you for the fact that there will be setbacks, there will be failures. It's part of the process.
It's about seeing those challenges as opportunities to learn, to get better, to become more resilient. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's a stepping stone on the way there.
And DeMarco's big on staying positive, even when things get tough.
So surround yourself with supportive people, keep your why in mind, and celebrate those wins along the way.
Exactly. It's about remembering that the journey matters just as much as the destination, and finding joy in the process.
That's a great point. Now, can we talk about time management for a second? Does DeMarco have any advice on that? How to manage your time effectively and create a schedule that actually supports these fast lane goals?
He does. He talks about identifying and cutting out what he calls time losers. Those are the things that drain your energy but don't really contribute to your progress.
So you have to be mindful of how you're spending your time, making sure it aligns with your priorities.
Right. He encourages readers to create a structured schedule with dedicated time for working on the business, personal growth, relationships, and even relaxation and rejuvenation.
It's about finding that balance.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. Work and rest, going after your goals while taking care of yourself.
Right, because you have to take care of your physical and mental health too, right? I mean, that's the foundation for everything else.
He's big on that. Prioritizing things like exercise, sleep, good food, managing stress. When you take care of your body and mind, you have more energy and focus, which helps you be more resilient when you face challenges.
It's like you said before, health is an investment, not an expense.
Exactly. Taking care of yourself is key to achieving success and happiness over the long haul.
I love that. Now, what about worst case consequence analysis? DeMarco talks about that too, right?
He does. It's a great way to think about risks. Basically ask yourself, what's the absolute worst thing that could happen if I make this decision?
Okay.
If you can live with the worst case scenario, then go for it. It's about realizing that some risks are worth taking while others, not so much.
It's a good way to make smarter decisions and feel less anxious about potential problems.
Exactly. He also talks about recognizing your treasonous choices, the ones that have led you down the wrong path, held you back from reaching your goals.
It's about taking ownership of those past choices, understanding the patterns that got you where you are, and making new choices that line up with your aspirations.
And it's about learning from your mistakes. Failures and setbacks are going to happen. It's inevitable.
You just have to view those challenges as chances to grow, to refine your strategies, to get stronger.
Right. And DeMarco encourages a growth mindset. It's about understanding that your abilities aren't set in stone. They can be developed with effort, learning, and persistence.
It's about believing that you can learn and grow and become your best self.
Exactly. We talked a bit about unique selling propositions earlier. Can we dive into that a little deeper?
Sure, USP, right. That's that statement about what makes your business stand out from the competition.
Right. It's about finding your unique strengths, the advantages you have, the value you bring that no one else does.
It's about finding what makes your product or service special, what problems it solves, what needs it fulfills, and then explaining that value in a way that connects with people.
Exactly. You have to differentiate yourself in a crowded market.
So how do you actually create a good USP? Does DeMarco have any advice for that?
He does. He lays out a 6-step process.
Okay, tell me about it.
First, you got to figure out who your target market is.
So who are you trying to reach?
Right. What do they need? What do they want?
Okay, what's next?
Then you analyze your competition.
So what are they offering? What are their good points, their weak points? How can you be different from them?
Exactly. Once you've got that figured out, you determine the benefits of your product or service.
So what problems does it solve?
What value does it provide? How does it actually make your customers' lives better?
Got it. Then what?
Then you take all those benefits and condense them into one powerful statement.
That's the USP.
That's it. Make it clear, concise, easy to understand. Once you have your USP, You integrate it into all your marketing.
So your website, your brochures, your social media, everything.
Everything. And finally, the most important part, you make sure your USP is real.
You mean you actually have to deliver on those promises?
Exactly. It has to reflect the real value you offer, not just be some marketing trick.
So a strong USP, it's essential for building a brand that people trust, attracting customers, and standing out.
Definitely. And speaking of attracting customers, DeMarco also has some interesting thoughts on marketing.
Okay. Like how to actually reach your target audience.
He talks about the importance of cutting through all the noise out there, all the advertising and information that people are bombarded with constantly.
So how do you actually get people to notice you?
He suggests a few different tactics. Things like being polarizing, being risque, being interactive,
Okay.
being unconventional, and arousing emotions.
Let's break those down. What does he mean by being polarizing?
Polarizing means taking a stance that might not appeal to everyone, but it really resonates with your target audience. It's about being different, challenging the status quo, standing out.
So you have to have a strong opinion and not be afraid to maybe alienate some people.
Exactly. You can't please everyone, and if you try to appeal to everyone, your message ends up watered down, and it won't really connect with anyone.
Makes sense. Now, what about this risque thing? I feel like that can be tricky.
It can be. Being risque is about using things like sex appeal or humor to get people's attention, but DeMarco says not to overuse those tactics.
Right.
You have to find a balance, be edgy without being offensive.
Okay. What about being interactive?
That's about getting your audience involved.
Okay.
Making them feel like they're part of your brand story, giving them chances to participate and share their experiences.
It's about creating a two-way conversation, building a community, making your audience feel like they belong.
That's it. And then being unconventional. It's all about challenging the norms, doing the unexpected, and finding creative ways to stand out.
Thinking outside the box.
Exactly. And finally, arousing emotions. That's about connecting with your audience on a deeper level. Make them care about your brand.
So appealing to their aspirations, fears, dreams, make them feel something.
That's it. Effective marketing, according to DeMarco, isn't just about getting attention. It's about building relationships and creating loyalty. You need to communicate your value and give people a good reason to choose you.
We touched on this earlier, but I love that phrase of DeMarco's, burn the business plan, ignite execution.
He's all about action.
He doesn't want people spending months on a business plan that never sees the light of day.
He thinks it's much better to get out there and start doing, even if it's on a small scale, and use that real-world feedback to improve your strategy as you go.
And it's a good way to attract investors too, right?
He thinks so. Investors are more likely to back a business that's already up and running, that's showing results, than one that's just an idea on paper. It's about proving your commitment and your ability to get things done.
It's that lean startup mentality. Launch quickly, test, adapt.
Exactly. The best way to learn is by doing.
Now, DeMarco also puts a big emphasis on amazing customer service, right? He thinks it's key to setting your brand apart and building a loyal customer base.
Absolutely. He's all about those SUCS moments we talked about earlier.
Yeah, those unexpected, positive surprises that go above and beyond what customers expect.
It's about exceeding expectations, turning customers into raving fans who will not only come back for more, but tell everyone they know about their great experience. He thinks exceptional customer service can be a huge advantage, especially when so many companies are all about automation and impersonal interactions.
It's about making the business feel human again, showing that you actually care about your customers.
And their happiness.
Yeah.
But how do you create those SUCS moments?
Yeah, how do you actually do that? Does he give examples?
He does, yeah.
Yeah.
Talks about handwritten thank you notes, unexpected upgrades,
Oh, nice.
going the extra mile to solve a problem. Doesn't have to be anything huge or expensive. It's often those little thoughtful things that make a big impact.
So be proactive. Try to think ahead about what customers might need and just take that extra step to show them you appreciate their business.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he also talks about how important it is to give your employees the power to create these positive experiences.
Right, because they're the ones interacting with the customers day to day.
Yeah, he sees frontline employees as the face of the company. Their interactions can make or break the brand's reputation.
So you need to build that culture of amazing customer service.
That's it. Make sure your employees feel like they can go above and beyond to make customers happy.
Give them the training, the resources, the freedom to make it happen.
Exactly. Happy employees, happy customers. Investing in your team is one of the best things you can do for your business.
Okay, before we wrap up, I want to touch on one last thing that can be a big obstacle to financial freedom: Debt. I know DeMarco has some strong opinions on that.
He does. He's
Yeah.
really clear about what he calls bad debt.
Okay, so what does he consider bad debt?
He actually talks about good debt versus bad debt. Good debt is used to buy assets that increase in value or generate income, like a mortgage on a rental property
Right.
or a loan to start a business that's going to bring in good cash flow.
So it's debt that's a tool to build wealth, not just spend money.
That's it. Bad debt is what you use to buy things that lose value over time or don't make you any money.
That's the kind of debt that keeps people stuck, right?
Exactly. They're working to pay off credit cards, car loans.
All that stuff that just drains your money.
Exactly. It keeps people trapped in the rat race. DeMarco calls it lifestyle servitude. You're working to make the banks richer instead of building your own financial future.
So his advice is basically to ditch the bad debt, start paying cash for everything.
Yeah, he's a big fan of the pay cash mentality. Prioritize saving and investing your money instead of buying stuff that doesn't really add value to your life.
It's not about denying yourself pleasure, though, right?
No, it's about making smart choices, recognizing that true wealth isn't about the things you buy, but about the choices and freedom you have in your life.
It's about creating a life where you're not weighed down by debt, where you can pursue your passions, travel, spend time with the people you love, or just enjoy the peace of mind that comes with knowing you're financially secure.
DeMarco actually pushes back on the idea that you have to be super frugal to become wealthy.
I see.
He says the Fastlane is about building a business that makes money for you so you can enjoy the things that matter most.
It's about abundance, not scarcity, and about using your wealth to make a positive impact.
Exactly. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the Millionaire Fastlane, what are some key things you hope listeners will take away from this?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Well, I think one of the biggest takeaways is that anyone can achieve financial freedom.
It's possible for anyone.
As long as they're willing to think differently, challenge those old ways of thinking, and take action.
It's not about getting lucky or having rich parents.
It's about making conscious choices, building a system that works for you, creating value for others.
And that mindset shift is so important, like you're saying before.
Moving from scarcity to abundance.
Right.
From being a consumer to being a producer.
Right.
From being afraid of failure to embracing smart risks.
It's all connected.
And remember, building wealth is a journey. There will be bumps along the way, but if you keep learning and growing, you'll get there.
It's about staying focused on your vision.
Exactly. DeMarco wants us to rethink wealth, to ditch that get-rich-slow mentality and embrace a new approach, one that's all about taking action, innovating, and helping others.
He reminds us that we have the power to create the life we want, to build a life of freedom and abundance, and to leave the world a better place than we found it.
And that's a pretty amazing thing to think about.
It is. So as we close out this deep dive, I have one final thought for you, listener. What's one need you see in the world, something you could maybe solve with a business? What would your unique approach be? Remember, the first step to financial freedom is taking that first step.